The Milky Way galaxy is a tapestry of light, chaos, and mystery. A swirling disk of stars, planets, and nebulae stretching over 100,000 light-years. But for all its beauty, humanity never expected to find its greatest enigma lurking at the very heart of it all. It began in the year 2147, when deep space listening posts near Alpha Centauri intercepted a signal unlike anything ever recorded. At first, scientists dismissed it as pulsar interference or the residual echo of a dying star. But as the pattern repeated, a chilling truth emerged. The signal wasn't random noise. It was a message, a human message. Coded within the electromagnetic bursts was a sequence familiar to every ship captain, every cadet, every colonist, the universal SOS. 3 short pulses, 3 long, 3 short again. The ancient cry for help, transmitted on a loop. But this wasn't just any distress call. The signal's origin was pinpointed to Sagittarius A, the supermassive black hole anchoring the Milky Way's core. A region so hostile, so bathed in radiation and gravitational chaos that no human ship had ever dared to venture near it. The United Stellar Coalition scrambled to investigate. Theories erupted like supernovae. Was it a relic from a lost colony ship, a malfunctioning probe, or something far stranger? Within weeks, the Odyssey, humanity's most advanced deep space cruiser, was dispatched. Its mission: follow the signal to its source and uncover the truth. For months, the Odyssey plunged through the galactic abyss, skirting star clusters and nebulae. The crew, scientists, engineers, and military personnel, monitored the signal as it grew stronger, its pulses synchronizing with the ship's navigation systems. Then, halfway through the journey, something changed. The SOS began to evolve. Hidden beneath the surface-level code was a second layer of data, a star map, but not of the Milky Way as it existed now. The coordinates pointed to a region near the core that, according to all astronomical records, shouldn't exist. A region where space-time itself seemed to ripple like water. By the time the Odyssey reached the edge of the galactic core, tensions were high. Radiation shields were maxed. Engines hummed at critical capacity. And then, through the observation decks, the crew saw it. A structure. Not natural, not human. A massive ring-shaped installation floating in the black hole's accretion disk, its surface etched with glowing symbols that mirrored the SOS signal. But the strangest detail? The materials. Scans revealed alloys, polymers, and energy signatures identical to those used by human ships. As the Odyssey moved closer, the installation activated. Beacons flared to life, guiding the ship into a docking port that fit its dimensions perfectly. Too perfectly. Inside, the crew found corridors lined with atmospheric controls set to Earth-standard oxygen levels, consoles labeled in English, and log entries dated 3 centuries in the future. The final entry, played automatically, featured a figure in a tattered coalition uniform. Their face was obscured, their voice distorted by static, but their words were clear. If you're hearing this, we failed. The war is lost. But you can still fix this. You have to go back. Stop them before they... The recording cut off. Alarms blared. The installation systems suddenly locked onto the Odyssey, flooding its computers with a new signal. A compressed data burst containing schematics, coordinates, and a single phrase repeating in every human language. Prepare for transit. Before the crew could react, the installation's ring began to spin. Space around the ship warped, reality itself bending like a sheet of metal under a gravitational press. And in the observation deck's viewports, the Milky Way's core rippled, as if it were a reflection in a pond struck by a stone. The last thing the crew heard was the SOS signal, now twisted into a shrill, urgent scream, before the Odyssey was swallowed by a lightless void. When the Odyssey re-emerged from the void, the stars were different. The galactic core still loomed ahead, but the constellations were wrong. Cygnus was missing a wing. Orion's belt had 4 stars instead of 3. And the black hole at the center? It pulsed with an eerie violet light, its accretion disk replaced by a lattice of megastructures, sprawling, planet-sized machines that glowed like spiderwebs caught in a novus blast. But the greatest shock came from the Odyssey's sensors. Floating in the shadow of the black hole were hundreds of ships. No, thousands. Hulks of ancient warships, their hulls scorched and ruptured, drifting in a graveyard that stretched for millions of kilometers. And among them, coalition vessels, or something close. Their designs were familiar. Sleek, silvered hulls, fusion drives, plasma batteries. But altered. Upgraded for war. The crew's computers rebooted with a jolt. The data burst from the installation had unpacked itself, revealing a library of files, battle plans, weapon schematics, and a historical record that defied belief. The SOS signal hadn't been sent by humans of this timeline. It was a cry for help from a parallel reality, one where humanity had united the galaxy, only to provoke a war with an ancient, merciless species known as the Kavathi. In that timeline, the Kavathi had overwhelmed human forces, glassing Earth and hunting survivors across the stars. Desperate, the survivors had used experimental technology to punch a hole through spacetime, sending the SOS backward and sideways into our timeline. A timeline where the Kavathi War hadn't yet begun. The ring installation was a bridge, a trap, and the Odyssey had just sprung it. As the crew grappled with this revelation, the Odyssey's comms crackled to life. A voice, human but hollow, echoed through the speakers. Coalition vessel, you are out of time. The Kavathi Armada has breached the outer systems. You must activate the beacon. Now. Outside, the derelict warships began to shudder. Lights flickered aboard their corpses. Engines, dead for centuries, flared with unnatural energy. The Odyssey's sensors detected movement in the graveyard, shapes stirring in the darkness. Not Kavathi. Something worse. The dead ships were reanimating, their systems hijacked by the same SOS signal that had lured humanity here. The truth was now horrifyingly clear. The survivors of the lost timeline hadn't just sent a warning. They had sent a weapon that could puppet derelict ships, bending them into a fleet to fight their war. But to do it, they needed living crews, fresh minds to merge with the machines. The SOS was never a call for aid, it was a snare, a way to harvest soldiers from across time and space. The Odyssey's crew faced an impossible choice. Activate the beacon, merging their consciousnesses with the Armada to battle a foe that hadn't yet invaded their reality, or destroy the installation, severing the link between timelines, but leaving their own universe vulnerable if the Kavathi ever came. In the end, they found a third option. Using the schematics from the data burst, the crew jury-rigged the installation systems not to bridge timelines, but to collapse them. They turned the Kavathi's own weapon, a black hole bomb buried in the core, against the Armada, overloading the hive mind controlling the derelict ships. The cost was high. The Odyssey was destroyed in the blast, its crew listed as missing. But the Kavathi invasion was erased from history, reduced to a phantom in humanity's collective memory. Back in our timeline, the Milky Way's core fell silent. The SOS signal vanished. But deep within Coalition archives, a single log entry remains, a warning from a timeline that never was. They are coming. Be ready. As for the crew of the Odyssey, some say they're still out there, trapped between moments, fighting an endless war to keep the darkness at bay. But that's a story for another day.